Hey, thanks for listening to the KQ Morning Show podcast. This special episode features an extended conversation with comedian Andrew Santino, who you can catch at the Pantages Theater February 21st and 22nd.
Is it a fact that you're a Chiefs fan?
It's not a fact. I'm not it's interesting. I'm friends with Travis and Pat Mahomes. I met Pat through Travis and okay. We kind of became buddies. I met Travis years ago.
Sure.
They were developing a sports show we were going to do together. We never did it. We just kind of stayed friends. And then, I always rooted those guys on because they were great dudes, and watching their career was incredible. Like watching them over the past years have been great. And no, I'm a diehard Bears fan, man. I'm a 100% Chicago fan, but it's fun to support Super Bowl winning Hall of Fame guarantees.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I get a lot of flack online. I've talked about it a bunch, but people can say whatever they want. No, I support my friend. I said on Le Batard's show, I was like, you go, hey, average person, average sports fan, go get yourself a Hall of Fame Super Bowl winning buddy, and like an actual friend we go to dinner, we hang out, I see them whenever we're together, we golf in the off season, and you tell me you're not going to support their team. That's crazy. Like, of course you would. Like I took my dad to Monday Night Football, which was incredible. My dad got to see a Monday night game in Kansas City after I performed. It was heaven on earth, man. It was like one of the coolest things, and everyone in the organization is incredible. But that's I get the flack, but I couldn't care less. I don't care what people say anymore. I'm a Bears fan, and I'm hoping the future is going to be great. I think Ben's going to be our future. I believe in Caleb. I really think we have an incredible squad. I'm a big Rome fan, so I'm a Bears fan. I mean, you want to talk Bears, I talk it all day. And
you know better than me, although I've been watching the league and spent a lot of time in Chicago my whole life, et cetera, et cetera. And I've always said, if the Bears were ever year in and year out contenders and they had an all-pro quarterback, that quarterback would mean more to the city than Michael Jordan did in his heyday.
Ooh,
true or false?
I got to be honest with you. I think false, man.
No, okay.
Well,
Super Bowl wins, like multiple Super Bowl wins.
Yeah,
you quarterback.
Show me. Yeah, well, show me that. Show me that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you're talking to a kid that grew up. I'm born in '83. I grew up in the heyday of Jordan. My youth was literally all Jordan. I mean, I like buying Jordans. The starter jacket empire. Like I literally was embedded in that in my youth. So for me, he was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. And like back then, the world is different now. But going to a game, we would go to a game like maybe once a year. You'd be lucky enough to go to a Bulls game. Now I go to sporting events. I see kids sitting, courtside. You're like, what is going? Where is the world?
Yeah.
But we used to go. To like one or two games a year. We get some lucky tickets, and it did something to me as a kid. That it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. He was Jesus to Chicago. So it would take a quarterback to win us a couple Super Bowls. In such magnificent fashion. And also change the culture, not to dig into Jordan, but he literally changed the culture of basketball forever,
That's very true.
Yeah. So
I saw his final regular season game in Atlanta in '98, the back of the 2 3-peats his last season. And they moved that game to the Georgia Dome, a regular season game in Atlanta. And they had to put it in a stadium. And there were still people outside that couldn't get in. And I remember thinking then, well aware of his of all that he meant, but thinking this is okay. They're not doing that for anybody else ever.
No, that's Jordan, man. There was something so incredible to watch. I mean, we never were allowed to watch TV during dinner. Like our kitchen and our living room were right next to each other, and we couldn't watch TV. But if the Bulls were on, we were allowed to eat in the front room, and that was okay. Like somehow,
that's awesome.
I don't know why that was okay to my mom, but like. That was fine. If the Bulls were playing at night, we could watch a local game and eat dinner in there. And my mom wouldn't be like, get to the table. But if it was just regular television, no way. Yeah, you couldn't do that.
That's actually the greatest I don't know that anybody could tell a story that means more about his impact than we couldn't watch TV unless the Bulls were on. I mean,
That's exactly right.
that's the kind of that's a personal impact.
Yeah,
You're never
and by the
gonna.
way, that being said, to answer the question from before, if the Bears were on, we still had to eat at the table because
Yeah, right.
they were going to lose anyway.
Yeah,
We
no
were used to
kidding.
that. Yeah.
So, at some point as a kid, living this gilded life as a Bulls fan, it occurred to you, I should probably, I'm kind of funny. Maybe I could make strangers laugh too.
Sure.
How old the first time you remember thinking along those lines?
Well, I was asked to leave. There's a school downtown that I went to when I was a kid called Moody Bible. Moody Institute is still there. And I was asked to leave
Hmm.
because of fighting and disruptions. So I was removed from Moody Bible. I was I was politely asked to get out.
Yeah.
I think I got removed from a few schools. My mom had a little bit of trouble with me. I was a troublemaker. I was a little punk, and I just was so distracted. So like goofing off and having fun and making jokes and making light of stuff, it was just part of my nature. Even as a little kid, it was just a part of our culture. And my grandfather, who was like the funniest guy to ever live, was a Chicago firefighter, and I think we all got it from him. He always
Hmm.
took the piss, as they say, over the pond, and he always kind of like wanted to make light of everything. He loved the upstairs downstairs relationship. You know, he would always crack jokes about the wealthy, and that was his
Hmm.
way of coping with how, you know,
Yeah.
his life. And so, you know, he'd always say those nice restaurants, they turn down the lights because they don't want you to see how ugly the food is. You know, he would say stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
it was very reminiscent of Willy Wonka. You know, I bet the gold makes the chocolate taste terrible. It was that kind of mentality.
Hmm.
Grandfather. So that was kind of our rhetoric in our family. We always joked around and we always kind of lightheartedly poked fun at stuff, and it was cultural for us. So as
Yeah.
a kid, I grew up with that a lot. We grew up with a lot of teasing and joking around and making fun of each other, and it was so natural in our family that it was just part of my nature. And then, you know, I realized I was a moron who couldn't get a real job, so I was like, I better get good at comedy fast because
Yeah.
I'm too stupid to have an actual important job.
Self-awareness, very, very
It's
important, very
it's very,
key.
very, yeah, I learned quickly.
Chicago is a legendary comedy town, and at the same token, I mean, Minneapolis is a great breeding ground. A lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
stand-ups that you probably know and love came out of here. What was your first time in Minneapolis? Do you remember your first time coming up here to perform?
I was just gonna say I was gonna shout out my boy Nicky Swartzen, who's like
Yeah.
one of my closest. He literally just texted me like an hour ago. We were teasing each other. I love Minneapolis. I'll say this. I'm answering your question by way of the reason I decided to shoot my special in Minneapolis is because the last few times that I've been there to do shows, um, it's something different. It's something's
Hmm.
electric about that city, something about the people, the culture. You get such a mix, by the way, in Minnesota as a whole of different socioeconomic backgrounds and cultures and the way it's Midwest at its core, but you're
Hmm.
going to get different political thoughts and beliefs and viewpoints, and you get a big scale of wealth or lack of. And I think that's what really makes a good city. And what I don't love is performing in places where it feels like all the same person. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying without saying it? It's kind of like there's cities where I'm not going to shoot at them, but there's places where I just feel like culturally it's not my favorite. They don't have this breadth and depth of culture of different kinds of people that come together the way that Minneapolis does specifically. So the reason I picked that city for my special is because they're wonderful people. It's an awesome comedy town,
Hmm.
and it's the core of the Midwest. And I said, if I'm going to shoot a special, it's going to be when nobody can go outside except for to go to the bar or to go to
Yeah.
laugh. So I said, let's do it end of
Yeah.
February when it's miserable. Come laugh, have a couple of drinks, and have a blast. And that was kind of the purpose of all of it. And I wanted to be back in the Midwest, to be honest. I was like, I got to shoot in the Midwest. I don't want to be back home in Chicago. And Minneapolis was a no-brainer for me.
Friday and Saturday night, February 21st, 22. It's two shows each night at the Pantages.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You said you lived in LA for 20 years. I think a lot of people also don't understand when you move to LA, it's not because you don't like where you're from. It's just where you kind of got to go at some point. You
Yeah.
want to do other things. And you, far more than stand up, you also, you've played a lot of parts on a lot of shows. You're an actor and doing other things. And did you see was that always part of the plan too? Were you a stand-up who at some point said I could do that too, or did you have it early on, like I'd like to do both?
Yeah, like I always wanted to be a stand-up. Stand-up comedy was my that was my dream, and that was an embarrassing dream. So I never really told anybody. I told my parents I was going to LA to try to like get into the business. And they were very supportive, albeit not financially. They were like, if you're gonna go out there and drown, you got to do it on your own. Like
Hmm.
we're not giving you some, so you got to go get a job, figure
Sure.
it out. I didn't have a beautiful safety net of like sitting at home and eating cereal and watching TV and writing jokes. I had to get day jobs for a while. So, I wanted to come out here and do comedy. I would say my hero or my influence was Jim Carrey. I thought he was everything to me as a kid. My friend Sean and I used to sit in my mom's basement and rewind Dumb and Dumber and wear the tape out. Literally, we wore the VHS out. We'd rewind
Hmm.
the scenes that we loved. And I love Jim so much. He was my influence. So I wanted to be like Jim. I wanted to be like Robin. I wanted to do stand up and then take it into the world of
Hmm.
comedic acting. If I was so lucky. That was kind of like I never had like a my dream. I never had that. I always just wanted to make a living doing being a comedian, and my dream came true, and I more than I ever expected. So I never had like deep aspirations as a kid to be an actor. I just wanted to be a comedic entertainer, and I knew that that was something that was possible. And then when I tried to get into acting, I found out that I wasn't that bad. I was all right, and they kept giving me stuff, and I kept working.
Hmm.
I kept working towards it. So I'm super blessed and grateful of that. But stand up is forever my love. You could.
Yeah.
Someone always said, people always say in interviews, sometimes on press junkets, they're like, gun to your head, which one do you have? If you got to lose one of the two, I mean, I would lose acting in a
Yeah.
heartbeat. Stand up is everything to me.
I'm sure you have this as a musician. The bands I grew up loving and listening to that make you want to do it. When you get involved in it yourself, it's interesting to realize as you get better and learn more, you realize, oh no, they're even better than I knew. Just as a fan, does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Because like you said, you wear out Jim Carrey performances. I can remember the first time I saw Ace Ventura, and it was hilarious. I mean, I was
Yeah.
laughing hysterically over the top, but I didn't think it would carry on through repeated viewings. And it more every single time you realize, wait a minute, and I'm not a comic actor. I'm not a stand up. I'm trying to imagine just doing that on,
Right.
just the commitment and the level of brilliance at every step. It's just mind boggling. It's like when I listen to Beatles records now, and I'm still like, oh God, they're even better than I knew
I
before I
agree.
knew what I was talking about. It's the same kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of it permeated culture in a way that changed comedy film forever, and
Hmm.
and honestly, like the way that that comedy was happening on a commercial scale back then, I miss and I wish we're trying to make it come back. I have a couple of buddies and I are trying to make stuff. We're working pretty hard, and
Yeah.
it's tough. The business doesn't really love commercial comedy anymore the way it used to, and that's okay. I do think it's going to come back. It's not doomsday for our business.
Hmm.
Comedy is at its height. I mean, I'm so grateful of what's going on with me, and people are coming to see me in droves. And some of my good friends, Shane Gillis is selling out arenas.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see like comedy at its height now. I mean, Nate
Hmm.
Bargatze is a household name, and like these things are pretty wild to watch comedy be at this peak level for my peers in my group and guys that I know. And I think it's incredible, man. I think it's only going to lead, hopefully, to culture tagging along and letting commercial comedy get back into the box office because I think that's what people love the most, man. I mean,
I I'd like to think over the last decade, I think it's coming back around where people are recognizing it's just jokes.
yeah,
The point is to laugh at everything.
yeah,
And we have become siloed off in society, and we've allowed ourselves to be divided. And like you were talking earlier, there's such a homogenization with thought, depending on not even town to town, but just friend groups and who you hang out with. And I've seen a lot of your clips, and I'm always appreciative of the fact that you're just if it's funny, it's funny. If it's a
yeah.
joke, it's a joke for God's
It's a
sakes.
joke. Well, that's part of the problem of there's a loss of context in reality today because of the internet, and it is what it is. But people have to know when someone gets angry about a joke, it's like I've always said this. Bobby Lee and I have a podcast called Bad Friends, and it's probably the most successful thing I've done in my career. And I'm so happy that the fans have come along for this stupid ride with two morons. But we mean none of it. It's all for fun. It's all to let it rip. And on the way to work, to just listen to us goofing on each other and making fun of reality and diving into kind of this fantasy world with us is what's so fun. And that people have to know that, like, when we make opinions or when we're calling stuff, it's all fake. It's all for fun. Like, none of this stuff should be taken serious. And even when I tell a joke about an opinion of a social topic, I might not even believe that. It's just fun. Like, it's like mock debate. We're just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
Just to tingle your brain and make you think about it and laugh. So that's kind of my new viewpoint of my world is like, come see me, have a good time. It's all fake. It's not, this is all for fun, man. It's a joke. I'm not trying to get you to, like, have to take a political stance. Like, it's just a bit, man.
Yeah, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger was not made from titanium. He didn't come from the future.
No. And for years, I really thought he did. He does kind of sound like he's from somewhere else. But,
yeah, that's true.
Outside of that, yeah.
John Prine was not a housewife in Montgomery, Alabama. He just happened to write a song about one.
That's right.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Well, have
Andrew
you ever? I don't know. Did you see?
By
the way, sorry. Did you ever see that documentary that they did, the Springsteen documentary? It was on HBO or something, and people were upset to find out that, like, all these songs that Springsteen wrote weren't about his life. He's like, no, I was writing characters. And people were like, that's not you. You didn't work in a factory when you were 9. He's like, no, dude. Yeah. Like, it was a song. I wrote a song.
Not only did he write a song about that, he invented that whole Jersey Shore being heaven on earth crap too. Like,
correct.
If you saw his Broadway show, he's like, I was from a hellhole. I had to make it sound good. Who wants to hear? It's like, it's called art. You're presenting you're trying to make people think, trying to make them feel. Doesn't mean it's you necessarily. So
correct.
Glad we could figure out how art works.
Yeah, we just figured out art for those that don't know.
Whew.
Yeah.
2 nights at the Pantages, Friday the 21st, Saturday the 22nd. 2 shows both nights. That's fantastic, man. It's great to chat with you. I'm going to try to get out one of those nights, and if I do, I'll definitely come say hey.
I would love to have you come backstage. We'll set that all up. I'd love to say hi.
All right. Right on, man. All the best.
Appreciate you.